We're back on the real Mission Impossible show. Today, we brought on the founder of Base Camp. Base Camp is an organization in Orlando, Florida that reaches out and supports kids fighting cancer. They've been doing this for years. And I'm so fortunate to be partnering with them very soon through our Time for Sharing Mission Impossible event. We'll be doing a little fun train for 30 minutes at their event coming up soon. But Terri's been doing this for years. She's the founder. She's the heart. She is the base of Base Camp. I proudly and humbly and honorably introduce Terri Jones, founder. Welcome in, girl.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. I am so excited to be working with you. You've already come to our Parents Night Out and met some of our sweet little wonderful children and started to pass on the message, I'm possible. I love that. Base Camp is an acronym: believe, achieve, support, and educate. So those positive affirmations as well. We believe in the children. We hope they can achieve everything that's possible in their lives. We want to support them through that and help educate the community as to what families with kids with cancer are going through. I know that all of our lives, I think everyone on this planet has been touched by someone with cancer, but I think our hearts just tweak a little bit more when it's a pediatric patient. Just this week, last week, I met a 2.5-year-old that was just diagnosed right before Christmas. A 4-month-old is in the hospital. We have myriad of teenagers. Our program started when I was on staff at Leukemia Society. Actually, they started before that. I began volunteering in 1980. I joke I'm 102, but I'm really not. But I, like most people, had never met a child with cancer. And when I began meeting children diagnosed with cancer at the Leukemia Society functions, my heart just pitter-pattered more than anything I had ever seen. And I had really never been affected by cancer. I had some friends who had parents and sadly lost parents to cancer during middle school and high school, but I had never really been affected in my household and in my life. And I don't know what drew me to kids with cancer. I think higher powers put you in the place you're supposed to be. And I found out that Disney World, I could get anybody free back then into Disney World if there was a leukemia diagnosis. And so I started blurting out to people when they would call for resources and assistance, hey, you want to go to Disney World? I always said it was a little bit of my nervous energy because people were crying. Someone's 32-year-old husband had been diagnosed with leukemia, and they had a 4-year-old and a 10-year-old, and they just needed some happiness in their life at this moment in time. And I think that's what we do. That's why I love your slogan, I'm possible. It's possible to help somebody in their lowest moment. And so we just began, serving out of the back door of the Leukemia Society. Then we had a parent support group. We hooked up with Candlelighters, which is an international parent support group. We have a sister chapter in Leeds, UK, which we visited. They are just like us. They're 3 women in a red wagon and a cute office, and they serve the hospital. And there's also Candlelighters of Canada, and then the American Candlelighters that really started it all in the 70s changed their name to American Childhood Cancer Organization. So we are an affiliate of American Childhood Cancer Organization, which is all over the country, and again, has resources for families. They do a lot of lobbying in Washington because of their location. So they've changed a lot of funding bills and just advocacy programs for kids with cancer. We are boots on the ground. We really serve the children. I realized during my tenure at Leukemia Society that as wonderful as research and all the funding for all that stuff, people need a meal and a visit and a night out and just a little respite along the journey. And I love some of the week-long camps in the summer, but we had kids that if they were sick that week, they didn't go to camp for 2 years. They didn't get to see their friends at that camp. So we started doing a crazy overnight camp in roughly around 1987. I had started having kids come over to my house. I had a set of parents that we had a teen outing and we would go out every month. And by the time I would get everybody home, it'd be well past midnight. So there was a family that was going out of town one weekend and their son wanted to go with we called ourselves Starlighters then, with the Starlighters teen group. And I thought that's inappropriate to have a 30-year-old female have a 15-year-old boy over for the weekend. So I just invited 5 more kids. And so we had our first base camp overnight camp. And we made spaghetti and brownies and stayed up late and watched movies and giggled and, just had a good time. And I thought, I think I'm on to something. After all the outings we had done and the spring parties and the picnics, I thought this really matters to these kids. And that's really what Base Camp was born. And I need to speak his name. John Lovejoy was one of my first teenagers, and he is who inspired me to have that once a month just outing, to go bowling, to go to the movies. He was a 16-year-old that was being treated, and I still don't know why, as I tell this story for over 40 years, I don't know why he was being treated at then Florida Hospital in an adult unit, but he really thought he was the only kid with cancer. So when his mom found our support group and he found this teen social group that he was a part of, it changed his life. Sadly, it did not change the outcome of his journey, but for the next 2 years, he had a club to belong to and friends, and he just blossomed. And he is who tugged on my heart and my coat strings to inspire me to get this thing going. And so he is truly my co-founder, along with a dozen mothers who took on the presidency of the Candlelighters Club and helped us organize. I still can't believe it. So the programs officially began in 1982 when I started working with Leukemia Society. And in 1992, I left Leukemia Society. Again, I loved them like my grandparents. They raised me, but I wanted to do more. I wanted to pay for ballet classes or bring people food in the hospital or do other things, the things that we do now. So we focus on nourishment, encouragement, and strength to finish the climb. And for us, that is literally food in the hospital. We serve Advent Health on Princeton, Arnold Palmer downtown Orlando, and Moore's Children's Hospitals. Those are 3 of 17 hospitals in the state of Florida. I always tell people, figure it out. There's 67 counties, and we only have 17 children's cancer hospitals in the state. So people are traveling.
Wow.
I'll let you get a word in edgewise.
I'm just dumbfounded because there's some people that go to work and then listening to you and visiting your center, which for me I was enamored to know that it was not just a playhouse for kids who were fighting this. And when I was trying to read my story, the first time I'd ever read a story that I'd authored, it was a children's book. And I had 4-year-old kids raising their hand. Wait a minute, excuse me, do kangaroos all have pouches? And I wasn't ready for it, but wow, you don't go to work, you live it, you breathe it, you're in it, you're immersed in it, you wear it. And it's just so impressive and so inspiring to know this. And for other people to find out, if somebody wanted to reach out to you today, let's say, and become, I don't know, a helpful candle lighter or a volunteer, how would they do that? And what could they do? And what do you need? How can other people support you?
I always say it's like having a big, dirty house and you need help all over the place.
Right. So, where do I start?
Yeah, where do you start? The place to start is basecamp.org, our website. You can sign up to be a volunteer are our biggest things. As you mentioned, we're having a project where you're coming on December 20th. We're bringing in a couple of hundred people, 100 plus children. We have 600 gifts that we all have to move. Actually, this week, all call for help is we're actually starting today at 2:00. We're going to our office to sort through about 100 children's gifts that have been sponsored. We've adopted 100 children for Christmas in addition to the 100 that will be coming to the Christmas party. So we have to sort out all those gifts and coordinate with parents to pick up those gifts if they are secret Santa gifts for their children, or if they're going to pick them up at the Christmas party and they're just going to add them under the tree. And we have to move about 20 big heavy bins that I can't even move anymore. I can't shove them. Everything's gotten so heavy. Somebody gave us hundreds of ballet point shoes, tap shoes, all these dance shoes. Everybody's getting fun dance shoes at their place settings. It's part of our tablescape, I think. We're going to this wonderful place called Harvest Time. You and I have talked about it a little bit. They are another wonderful resource I didn't know anything about. I really do believe in that old saying, an old dog can learn some new tricks. I learn something new every day, that there's a new resource, there's new programs, because we can't do it all. It truly takes a village. We are just one sliver. The hospital, the nurses, there are dozens of other nonprofits who are helping families along this journey. There are so many medical costs and so much need. People have asked me throughout the years, what I would do if somebody gave me $1 million. And I always say I could spend $1 million by the end of every day by sundown, if that was a test. We have 1,000 families between those 3 hospitals. And at any given moment, I'm sure that 100 of those families need $10,000. They need a second car. They need to get caught up on their bills. Maybe mom had to quit work 6 months ago when their 4-year-old was diagnosed and can no longer go to daycare. Mom can no longer go to work, so they've lost that income. We figure that every family needs about $25,000, and we don't do that. That's not something we do, because with $250,000, you can only help whatever that is, 10 families or so. You can't do much. But with donated food from restaurants, we work with Chick-fil-A and Olive Garden and wonderful restaurants that give us food. So when we come in with hot, fresh, community-based food, it really brightens up. I've been telling everybody, last Friday, my coworker was out of town, and I always say I got to go deliver lunch to the hospitals last week. And it's such an incredible thing to bring food to kids. And it's literally like putting helium back in their balloons. They sit up, and this one little boy was sniffing the pizza. He was like, "Oh, this is so good." It was, God bless Papa John's and Marco's and Domino's and all of our pizza places.
Where were
Kids,
the advertising people then?
I know, we love them. They give us deep discounts or donate the food.
Right.
It's incredible what our community has done to help us achieve our mission and
Yeah, and
continue.
it's a never-ending mission that doesn't stop. And that one-time donation, which might make a donor feel good for the moment, is simply a drop in the bucket, because it's a never-ending cycle. One diagnosis, I don't know how many people are diagnosed every day. There must be a statistic with having cancer, how many pediatric patients there are, but it's a continual flow. And for sure, the support needs to be continual on. That's why you have to keep beating the drum, and
Yeah,
that's what we do.
we call it that rat wheel or whatever. We're
Right,
just
the
being
hamster wheel.
constantly
It's a
the
hamster,
hamster wheel.
Terry. It's a
It's a
sweet,
hamster.
it's a sweet, cute little pet hamster.
But we are very fortunate. After 43 years, we have some wonderful standing donors. I think we have a dozen or so that have committed $5,000 to $10,000 a year. So we know that there's some money. I tell them all the time, that's how I know, because for many years I didn't have, it was my $10 sometimes. I joke that an old boyfriend was my first donor. He used to give me $25 when I would take those kids out that one night a month. And I thought we were rich, because back in 1986, 87, you could buy a pizza and 10 drinks for $25 at somewhere. And I would get the bowling alley to give us free bowling. I always say I'm the queen of getting things, do our steady programs, and we do it too. We want to make Christmas as great as it can, because sadly, for some of our families, it is their last Christmas. That's why we started Christmas in July, because we think Christmas needs to come twice a year at least. And then we do other fun things throughout the year. We've taken a group of families down to Sebring now to go fast in race cars on the track
I
for the
saw
last
that. The
couple of
really
years.
cool, really
We
cool.
have, I have to speak their names. Bob Turnage, who's a local race car driver and teacher, helped start the programs donated that can be donated. And then my brother-in-law, God bless him, he's a cancer survivor, and he started giving us $50 a month. And I tripled my budget one month. I said, we got $75 a month. Woo! And we built like that. We are truly the definition of a grassroots charity that just grew out of a need. And we have slowly but surely gained some momentum, and it's incredible to me. People say, how do you do what you do? And you nailed me in the beginning. I don't know how to stop. It's part of who I am and what I do. And I love my husband and my family, but I've built them all into it too. There have been many Christmas days. That's part of our family tradition, is we go to the hospital and deliver lunch for the kids and the families.
What a blessing that is too, for you and your family and for those kids. I understand it. That's
Yeah, and the other thing is, I was just telling somebody this, and I certainly don't mean any disrespect to anybody, but people overdo it in November and December, but kids have cancer all year long. And so we, from about 25 years ago, and 5 years ago, they needed a new charity. And then Chin Track Days has sponsored the last 2 years. They rent Sebring, the racetrack, for a couple of days. And this year we had 2 days. We had Saturday and Sunday. We have an hour of racing, and there's about 25 to 30 race car drivers that donate their cars and their time to put a kid or a dad in the car and go fast. It's an incredible adrenaline rush, and the kids are, let's go faster, let's go faster. They tease, you got, let's go faster, or get me out of here, or stop. And they just always, we've got video of the kids just with their thumbs up, let's go.
That's amazing. That's what really this is all about. It's about giving them that thumbs up, that approval, that recognition, that validation, that support. And I just think it's absolutely wonderful. What about, you mentioned nutrition as being one of the pedestals or one of the pillars of your program. How important do you think nutrition is to cancer survival and recovery?
I think it's paramount, because actually my own coworker, Miss Cindy, I met her when her 5-year-old was diagnosed with a brain tumor at then Florida Hospital, now Advent. And we had a program back then called, gosh, my brain's, it was a parents, it was a kid's choice. So we weren't hooked up with all the restaurants like we are now. It was the beginning of this program. So we had sponsors that would give me $100 to go buy lunch for the kids in the hospital that day. So we would partner with the hospital and the child life team to find out which child needed to choose lunch that day. And we always laughed. It's always McDonald's and Chick-fil-A and Burger King and fun food. And that day, Danny Whitaker chose Chick-fil-A. And I went, so what the program was is I would find out how many kids and families were in the hospital. And if there were 6 kids or 12 kids, I would go buy 20 kids' meals and 20 sandwiches and 20 whatever I could buy for $100. And I would bring it back. I would get that family exactly what they wanted. And then we would have food for everybody else, because I'm from the South. You can't bring a little platter of food this big when you know there's 49 people up there that are hungry. So what I didn't know that day, and I didn't know for probably about 6 months, I think we had Cindy come talk to our board of directors. And what I thought was just a visit and a meal was Danny's ticket home. He had not been eating. He was down to 35 pounds as a 5-year-old, and they were going to put in a feeding tube. He ate that Chick-fil-A, so he proved to the doctors that he would eat. He just didn't want to eat hospital food. And he never got a feeding tube. It was a monumental thing. And for Cindy, she tells the story, that feeding tube was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. Her 5-year-old had a tennis ball tumor removed from his head and was in the hospital and was on chemo for 100 rounds of chemo and had radiation and a lifetime maximum of brain radiation. It was just overload. Yeah. For some reason, that tube down his nose, that feeding tube, was just her breaking point. And to me, that we came up with a $5 kids meal that solved that problem, that's just incredible to me. You know, that food nourishment. I've even had doctors. I had a doctor yell at me one time. I love him, but he was yelling at me because I was bringing up Kentucky Fried Chicken. And he was like, "You're bringing up bad food, blah, blah, blah." And my other coworker, whose child had also been on the journey, said, "They're mainline IVing poison into my child's veins, and he's mad at you for Kentucky Fried Chicken." I said, "Yeah." I said, "He says it's bad food." About a month later, there was a little girl who was on the bone marrow transplant unit and wouldn't eat. And he saw me in the hall one day, and she had been raised by a mother who worked at Popeyes. It was ironically another chicken. And he said, "Would you go get her some Popeyes chicken?" And I said, "Absolutely." So it at some point it's calories, it's nourishment, it's food in their body. Even if it's that same little sweet Danny Whitaker, he went on a binge where he would only eat Funyuns and Dr. Pepper. We laugh about those are two very strong tastes. I don't know if it had something to do with his taste buds and the chemo or what it was, but she was crying and telling her doctor that's all he would eat. And the doctor said, "Just buy a big bag. If that's what he'll eat, you got to get calories into him." And then we also feed parents. We partner with Einstein Bagels. They give us their end of day bagels, fresh, beautiful bagels, and we bring up cream cheese. I have had and we've been doing that program for about 20 years. I have had so many parents that tell me that those bagels sustain them because people don't realize caregivers and parents and grandparents, brothers and sisters, whoever are there with the patient, if there's somebody there with them, they have to buy every meal, every snack, every drink, with rare exceptions. Sometimes there's a Ronald McDonald House snack bar. We actually help with a couple of snack foods there in addition to the bagels. But people don't realize it's expensive. We've had kids that have been in the hospital for months at the time. I know we've had about 4 or 5 that have been in for over 365 days. So if your kid's in the hospital for a year and you're at the hospital buying every meal, every snack, everything, it obviously it's another expense. And if we can defray that expense by providing some meals in there and some nourishment, it changes their lives. And I think people's souls are hungry. Like I said, our families are traveling, and Aunt Martha or Grandma is not there to bring you your favorite meal. And so when we come in, I have literally seen kids just sit up in bed. We love Olive Garden because their breadsticks smell so good. I think everybody in the
Uh,
world recognizes that smell.
right.
And we've had mothers hug us and say, "My kid hasn't gotten up." They sometimes get up, get out of the bed, drag their pole down to the serving area where we have food. They can smell the food. They just get up. It literally puts helium back in their balloons.
That's amazing. Terry, if you look back, and I know this is a big ask, but if you look back over the years since you started Base Camp from its very first event until today, just for our audience to get an idea, get a number around their head, how many kids would you say you put through your program and over the years you've impacted in some way? I know that's a lot to ask you. I'm not asking to pull a calculator, but round it up to the nearest million.
For our 40th anniversary, we actually did some crunching of some numbers and we figured out that it has to be over 20,000. At the time, we changed our database a few years ago and we had 15,000, and it was everybody. It was donors, volunteers, families. But we have a lot of families, obviously, that have more than the patient. We do have a lot of only children that are patients, but we also have families that have 5 kids or 8 kids. So we know that we've impacted at least 20,000 people and 20,000 children over the past 40 years. And like I said, we have 1,000 families between those 3 hospitals. We also serve sickle cell, hemophilia, and rare orphan blood diseases because they are treated by the same doctors at the same clinics. I joke that about 25 years ago, I had a big, tall, beautiful hematology nurse shake me and say, "You're delivering all these great programs, but you're not including all the kids." We really were. We just weren't doing it in paper. We were saying, "Kids with cancer, parents of kids with cancer." That was our language. So
Yeah.
now we've broadened our scope to oncology, and hematology illnesses. It's a big word, hematological disorders and blood-related disorders, because they're all treated by the same doctors, literally.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, a child which is not well is a child which is not well.
We have a policy that when we're on the floor, because a lot of times there will be overflow pediatrics, and it's real hard for me as a human to walk by somebody's room with fresh hot pizza for
Oh,
the
sorry,
children.
you're not sick. I don't see your diagnosis. No, you don't qualify for
I
a donut.
know. It's like I just had a mom walk out of a room the other day, and we had Cheesecake Factory bought up 40 pieces of cheesecake and 40 chicken nugget meals with pasta. Things smell and look beautiful. And this mom was coming out, and I knew she wasn't an oncology family. We can't knock on their doors. That's our policy. But if they come out in the hall, she was coming out in the hall, and I said, "Oh, we're serving Cheesecake Factory today. Would you like it?" And she was like, "What?" She was on her way to go buy her lunch and get her daughter something. And she was so grateful and thankful. And it really is remarkable. I've had probably about 10 years ago, we were at my husband's coworker's New Year's Eve party, and a lady who I was introduced to her as my friend's wife's friend. And she hugged me and she said, "You don't know me, but you served me dinner one night. My daughter was an overflow on that floor." And she said, "I didn't even realize I was hungry. And I didn't want to leave my daughter to go to the cafeteria. And it was like you just were there with a salad and a pasta or something, whatever it was we had." But it is remarkable. I've said for many years, if the cure for childhood cancer came about tomorrow, I have seen so much over the years. Children and families need a lot of help in a lot of other areas. And sometimes cancer is not the worst thing that can happen to a child. And that's a very strong statement. But there are some kids with other diagnoses, with other family issues, with other things going on in their lives. And it's crazy.
Yeah, it's disheartening to think that with all of this prosperity that we say we have in America and all these glam influencers and sports stars, etc., we have all these people doing really great. But then we have all this quiet suffering too going on. And you're shining a light on part of it. And as you shine the light, there's a need for more and more. And I hope that programs like this can get more people on board your wagon so that you can pull more families along. I was touched when I went to your facility and I saw the moms come in and they were hanging out with the
Yes.
kids. And you know that now they're hanging out. There's another mom hanging out. And it was like an event for the family, but at the same time, they also felt welcome. And I thought that was really remarkable for me to see and to feel. Well done to you and to your team for that, for sure.
Thank you. We have a little house. It's 1,500 square feet. We'd love to have a bigger house someday, but we don't want the overhead of that expense. We've found that those smaller groups mesh and bond better. We do have overnight camps now because of COVID. Oh, I don't have my logo on. Usually I have my logo on, but our logo is that of a mountain with a tent. Base camp is also symbolic of the encampments that are built as you climb a mountain. And so our little base camp house, in fact, when we were having the Capitol campaign, we called it Bring Hope Home, because those overnight camps started at my house. We love that homey feeling where you feel like you're at a house party and everybody's loud, and come in and have a soda. And if somebody spills something, it's fine. We clean it up, we move on. That's who we are and what we do. Sometimes I worry about my first group of teenagers. The lottery came out, I think, in 1987, and we used to dream the big dream that we would have a big old house with big old rooms and a racetrack and a bowling alley. And one of the things, one of the kids wanted a fully stocked 7-Eleven on property that was free. They could just go get whatever they wanted. And I love dreams. I love my nephew he lives in Zurich or somewhere over there. And they call him, his father-in-law calls them air castles. We all dream air castles. I think there are lottery dreams, or what we would do if we had $1 million or $50 million or something. But I know that even sometimes when we were in hotels, we would have 10 hotel rooms. I still loved it when we had a ballroom and we were all in the same room. And we just had that crazy. I'm a little crazy around the edges, and I love fun. I love a 10 ring circus. I think I was telling you our Christmas party is going to be a 10 ring circus. There's food pantry and there's pictures and there's gifts and there's dancing and there's superheroes and there's you are coming with your fun program. We just want people to have fun and just immerse them in fun, and there's food and stuff.
Something going on.
Something going on.
It's one of those carnivals where there's got a guy throwing the plates here and step right up and you win a prize here. And we hope we can win some hearts and some laughs during that event. Terri Jones, you've been a remarkable guest. We like to have you back. This is our first shot being able to interview you and nail you down because you've been so busy and you've escaped us until today. But we had to put our arms around you today, embrace you, shine a light on you, and let people know more about the wonderful work that you do at Base Camp. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Blessings, blessings. And everyone, basecamp.org. Is that right?
Yes, sir. BASECAMP. We're going to base. I always say it's like first base and we're going to camp.
There we go. Thank you. Thank you.